You're listening to Be Still and Grow, the GCC Ladies Podcast with Catherine,
Heather,
and Nicole, where we dive into deep theological topics and real-life issues through the art of conversation.
So take a seat at the table with us.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, hello,
Hello.
and welcome
Hello.
to the Be Still and Grow podcast. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
Was that better?
It's good. No, I got the case of the giggles, and so I'm like, be professional. Hello. Hello. How y'all doing? Does anybody notice the beautiful merch on Miss Nicole?
I see some
Everybody-
fancy merch.
No, because they can only see you.
Oh, dadgummit.
Still
Sorry,
a
you
surprise.
gotta look at this. Sorry.
Mystery
Dang, I'm
merch.
so sorry. Well, sorry, guys. We'll reveal that in a minute. Forget we said it. We'll come back to it. But welcome, guys. Y'all, we got a treat today.
Yes.
we
we
got,
do.
We got some guests. We got all the way from down under.
Flew a long way.
I won't try to
get
go
here.
all full out my accents. People do not like my accents. I've been learning, so I try. But they sound.
Please do.
Yeah. So, that was me. No, I was kidding. But yeah, we have Pete and Maddie Walker.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you, sir. This is probably a dumb question. It's hello is probably, do y'all say it the same way in Australia? No.
You know how we say it.
Good day.
Good day.
Yeah. Good day. I was like, hola.
Maybe that's why people don't
That was like
your
me in
accent.
France.
It's like I get it wrong. Well, it's like, I don't know if you remember, like, I think it just came to me, I remembered, but like, I try to imitate her son, because he doesn't really have an accent, but it came out Russian when I was trying to sound Australian.
It was very Russian.
So, I tried. The first time they come out well. After that, it was a little iffy. But welcome, guys. We're excited to have you guys on the podcast.
It's awesome to be here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, let's get back to this merch real quick. Now that you can see it, she is wearing one of the new hoodies that's coming out in August. Comes in many colors. And so, which I'm really, not the coat of many colors, but that yeah.
Immediately remembering
Yeah,
one.
that's what I thought. So I was like, let me go for this. I'll be ordering mine soon. I haven't done it yet, but I like the maroon color. I also like the black color.
The black color.
I like the burgundy. No, I was kidding. So-
For all of the details on
Yes.
how to order merch,
Mhm.
tune in at Gospel Community Church,
Yeah.
the church we all attend. I was going to say gospelcc.com, but we
I thought
don't
you were
live
like
stream
at
there.
6 o'clock. And I was like, oh.
No, we live stream on Facebook and YouTube, and we will be making that announcement
Yeah.
shortly.
When? No, I was kidding. It's brand new information. No, I was kidding.
So you must attend to find out.
Yeah.
There.
It was like last time. I don't know what we were announcing. And I was just like the whole time on pins and needles, like, what are they talking about? And I was like, we just had the conversation before the podcast. Like, oh, my bad. I'm like, what are they announcing right now? I was like, this is exciting. But yes, yeah, got all the merch coming out. So, because it'll be 1 year anniversary, y'all. It's crazy.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
That's a happy birthday song.
Oh, okay. I was like, graduating? I was like,
I started and I was like, I don't want to sing. Whatever.
but yeah, so we feel like we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Australia.
Yeah,
when we
let's
have
do
an
it.
Australian guy on the podcast, or man. So we want to say guy. We have an Australian
Bloke.
guy. Yeah, okay.
bloke.
Australian bloke. There we go.
We have her on
Yola Sheilas.
Australian Google.
Really? No?
He's our Australian
okay.
Google.
I was like,
right?
really? Brand new
So
information.
he can provide the Catherine's facts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that the same ring to Pete's facts? I want to be like Petey's facts. I don't think you would take it with
2
a grain of
grains of
salt.
salt.
I feel like his would be more accurate than mine.
Do Australians pronounce the G's in Google, or would it be ooh?
Just ooh.
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 Funny.
No.
I don't know.
I'm stumped.
I think they call it Google.
Gotcha.
I think that's a safe guess.
Because we were talking, because like every time, like even before I knew you guys, it's always been on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go to Australia. But every time I say that, people are always like, well, you're going to die. There's a lot of deadly things there.
Why do
Every
you think I
single time.
left?
Oh, yeah.
Barely make it out with my life.
Oh man, but like I know they have some because like I'm terrified of spiders tremendously. I've seen some of y'all spiders and they are scary. scary. Like I've seen some videos. I don't know if they're fake, but they're like some big, really big spiders.
Some big spiders.
Yeah.
I don't know that like this big.
Okay.
But like that big.
No, you know, like all the zombie movies that you ever watch, and the plane's flying off, and there's like zombies falling off. That's spiders in Australia. It's like,
It's not
No.
true.
I was like, oh god.
yeah, we barely made it out with our lives. Lost an engine. It was like it's the whole thing.
Oh dang.
So, like your regular house spiders, are they huge?
Yes.
Yes. So we would wake up, and there would be ones the size of your palm
Oh,
Just
my
like-
gosh.
on the ceiling, but they were the good ones.
My
It's the
husband.
little ones
There ain't no
got to
good
be
ones.
real worried about.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the part that I'm like, Lord, I know you know best. But why
Don't
are all
get-
the scary things invisible?
Yeah. Really, the spiders aren't the issue. It's the snakes.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
spiders,
yeah.
they
That's why
got
I'm
the
not.
same venomous spiders that we do, like over there, but they have so many more bad snakes.
What is the most venomous snake that they have there?
William actually was telling me the other day it is the short-scaled snake.
It's
But-
Australian.
It's in Australia, yeah. But
Your son's
it
went to
News to
doesn't.
me.
Yeah, it doesn't generally bite people, so it's not like considered one of the most venomous because a lot of people don't get bitten.
Is it like granddaddy long legs? They're the most venom. I mean,
Yeah. They're the
Fun
most
fact,
poisonous.
they're not.
I had a feeling I was like, she knows things.
They have
Yeah.
no venom glands.
They're
Granddaddy long
piliones.
legs. Piliones. This is a household fact for us. all
Lied
the
to
time.
us.
Well,
Someone did.
and they're different from country to country. Like our daddy long legs are different to your daddy long
Yeah,
legs.
yours are like cellar spiders. So yours are actual spiders.
I just saw a cell spider recently at a house we were doing for an auction. I was terrified. They're so long. And
So
then like
long.
they're so
They are.
big. And then like we walked into this room, and so like as we do our walkthroughs, they're showing me the house. We can make sure we can do an auction. And there it is on the wall, this big old spider. And I saw it. And, like it could be the smallest spider in the world. I freeze. I can't do it. And so like, and I'm looking at it, and they're just talking calmly, like it's no big deal. And I'm like, y'all, there's a spider right there.
We gotta go.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, that's no big deal." I'm like, this thing was huge. It was so long, and and they're like, it's like a small doorway. We had to walk back through it, and they're like, the whole time I'm like, I'm gonna walk through, and things gonna jump on me, and so they pushed me out, and I'm like, first stop touching me, but then like they pushed me out, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll grab it later, and I'm like, I had never seen a cellar spider, and that was scary. I'm sorry. Like I still have flashbacks as just seeing it. It was.
Little.
But
What
like,
nightmares
even,
are made up.
even if it bit you, it wouldn't kill you.
I would cry so much if that thing was on me, anywhere near me. That thing would cover a majority of my arm. I want to cry right now. I don't want to move on.
I just saw a video today of this little
hate
kid
that.
sitting on the sitting down on the ground at a school.
Yes.
And they had like this person's carrying a tarantula in a little like terrarium, like to go show and tell, or like they're doing some kind of something. And they full out drop this thing on this little boy. And he's like, "Ah," like the
it's so
camera phone
sad.
is all like crazy. And like, I'm just like, child trauma.
Yeah.
That's what that
Forever.
is right there.
That's what happened to
Furious.
Catherine.
Never.
That is Catherine.
Well,
in the
I don't even
video.
like looking at photos. If I accidentally I'm scrolling and I come across a photo or video of a spider, I'm like, oh no.
The heebie-jeebies.
That's how I am with snakes, but I get this ticking in my ear and my eye starts to twitch, and
Oh.
it's like I can't. I mean,
Makes
even
me
if there's a snake on TV,
Mm.
everybody knows at home. I turn my face,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "It's gone," so they know. Like, you
Oh
can
yeah,
watch TV.
as we talked about, even a CGI spider, I can't do it.
No.
No.
I helped a little wolf spider out of one of my houses
Oh
today.
my gosh!
Did you help it
Come
with the
on.
bottom of your boot?
No.
Furious.
Well, he
Pete
wouldn't.
and William both. They're just
Why
like,
did
oh,
you
He,
touch
come
he
that?
wouldn't
guy,
get on.
come
I was like, "Come on, friend. Like, otherwise you'll die." And
He needs to die.
he,
What
he went
spiders are
outside. A
terrible.
bird probably got him, but I didn't kill him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Listen, do you know
Oh my
that
gosh!
spiders have a purpose?
They have a
No.
great purpose.
And they kill other
No.
bad bugs.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Mosquitoes.
They are from the devil.
That's what people say about snakes. I prefer the mice. Yes, I know snakes kill mice. Yeah. Mice are fine.
Oh yeah.
The snakes can go.
Gus,
Did we have a mice problem? That was the.
Greg, please don't release a snake in the podcast room to get rid of the mouse.
Right. Were you okay with him touching the wolf spider?
Pete and William both.
God,
They'll come and
they're
pick them up.
huge.
The other day, William. Okay, it was in my way. Okay, if a spider's in my way, I'm not gonna let it go.
Mhm.
I'm gonna smash it. It's gotta go.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was like next to a light switch, and I went to do the light switch, and it was there, and I smashed it. And William was like, "I could have taken it outside." I was like, "Oh, you are so precious." Also, Stop touching spiders.
With your hand motion, I definitely thought you like
I got
karate
it.
chopped
Absolutely.
Judy
not.
chopped it.
Yeah.
No, I took my shoe off and karate chopped it.
Oh, wow. Whew. Sorry, we took a big detour on spiders, but my gosh, I'm questioning you a lot, Pete. Now, but so do you have a fear at all of like bugs here or anything after seeing big stuff there?
He got stung by wasps the other day on the nose.
Oh,
Ooh.
On the
Yellow jacket.
nose?
It was very on the nose.
That's terrible.
Was it
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick or
That
just
was
let
pretty
it sit
terrible.
there?
No. It was so like we're digging a hole and we saw a yellow jacket. We're like, it'll be fine. We'll keep going. And I saw like flashy yellow. It was very dramatic. And it like landed like literally right here. It stung me. And I can't tell if I was just sweating or if I was crying. It was probably a bit of both. But I'm like walking away. I'm like all dazed and confused. I'm like, And Andy was there too. And he's like, oh no. And then he got stung behind the arm, which I think was worse.
Ooh,
I think
that's
that's the sweetmeats. Yeah. It's like the tenderloin. I mean,
I'm glad you're not allergic and your nose like
Yeah.
swell up.
I was a little bit worried because it's like
real close.
your face.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everything could go wrong.
Oh man.
So there was that. But other than that, I don't know that you have much fear of bugs here.
No, it's probably more of an ignorance. We were like walking around in the yards the other day, and somebody's like, "Sorry, I didn't grow up in Australia," and I was like, "Well, I would have done this there too, but that's probably dangerous."
Oh man, are you? Because I mean, you're geologist. Yes, and so she knows all about the animals. So.
Okay, I do not know all about the animals, but I do know a
99%.
lot of things.
Yeah.
I do know a lot of
Are
things.
you? Is there any animals, insects, whatever you're scared of?
I would not like to see a bear in the wild or a
Oh.
cougar. I have seen them, like I have cared for them, and I know what they're capable of now, I think. And so I'm just like, nope. They just kill you. And then you die, and then it's really bad. Or a cougar doesn't kill you. It just like mauls you, and then you have to live. So
Yeah.
She also
Those two.
wouldn't like to see raptors, and not the bird, the dinosaurs,
well,
Oh.
who would?
and
they're
sharks.
very scary.
Those are real
Those are
fears
scary.
at 10 o'clock at night.
Well, it's very dark outside.
Yeah, not really worried about a shark in Woolsey, but
Go out at 10 o'clock at night. See if you
And
might
sometimes
shout.
I have to go get the trash can and bring it to the house,
Right.
and it is scary down there.
you do have a long dark.
You don't know what's down there.
You see, it's a shark just like I'm going to get you.
Came a long way for this.
Hey, listen, that can happen in Florida. Maybe it can happen in
See,
Australia.
and bears are in Florida. I keep telling Pete, bears are in North Georgia and bears are in Florida, and I don't understand why they're not here, and I don't
weird that
believe
they're in
it.
Florida.
At some point, they have to
One
make their
could be
way
there.
through, right?
Yeah. Well, as we learned from the last podcast, all you got to be is like, "Hey, bear!" You got to announce that beforehand, and then it supposedly alerts them that people
That's
are coming.
That's
Yeah.
what they think. That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just say run. I just go for it.
No.
No, I mean, you can do
See,
like-
this is why
no,
on the
no.
last podcast we literally phoned a friend. We were like, we need to phone Maddie and
Yes.
find out. So how do you handle encountering a bear in
You need
public?
to get big and loud.
I don't know, but you could
Hey,
be
bear. We
like,
said
you
that.
could do some juking.
No. You cannot climb a tree faster. You cannot run faster
Oh,
than
I
a bear.
can't climb no tree.
Regardless of
Oh,
species.
Brown bears can't climb a tree, but you won't get to a tree before a brown bear can.
And they'll just push the tree over.
Yeah, most likely. They're very
You're
strong.
like,
Yeah.
Well,
No, I don't know. Australia's bugs are pretty. They're the bugs. It's like spiders are similar to ours. You know, you get bitten, it's gonna hurt real bad. But snakes, there's a lot of venomous snakes, and then there's like scorpions and centipedes that are really venomous. And
I
then
hate centipedes.
they have
Yeah,
like green
scorpions.
ants, and it's like a fire ant, except like worse somehow.
Except like a small wasp. They're huge.
They are huge, and they
And there's
burn
many of
for
them.
so very
Is it
long.
like they called it cow ants or something like
Yes.
that?
Oh, yeah.
Those things are
Well, that's a
big.
flightless wasp.
Oh, really?
It
Mhm.
is.
Oh, interesting.
We may look up bugs. At we like to know all the information.
Yeah. I just feel like who told me these things? That's just a lot of liars I listened to growing
Yeah.
up.
accurate.
Yeah. Oh, that's another subject. But cool. Well, I so love Australia. Be careful when you go. But
I mean, I've never like encountered anything deadly while I was there.
Are there koalas like we see deer around here? Do you see koalas?
No,
Oh, sad.
We have kangaroos.
That's
like
what I say,
you see
kangaroo.
yeah.
Ah.
They're the Australian
but
deer.
where like Pete grew up, not in the cities.
Mm.
Where Pete grew up, there were kangaroos. Like
you see some kangaroos in the city sometimes.
sometimes
Mm.
there's like signs that are like kangaroo crossing is here, And there's actually signs that are koala crossing. And I'm like, I would die to see a koala crossing this highway right now.
Like, let's just go get a chair and
what does
sit
that
at the
look
crossing
like?
sign.
Yeah.
That's
And they're
obviously
like-
where they come.
I know. So angry. So, but they are, you can hear them like growling. They are very like territorial and they growl at other males. And so when you're in the city, you can hear them growling in the trees wherever
Oh,
they are.
wow.
They were not where I came from. They were much closer to what we would call like the hinterland, which is like the mountainous areas near the coast. So my sister-in-law, her dad's property had koalas in them, and so we visited and were able to go and see them in the wild, which was pretty cool.
That would be fun.
Interesting. They do look cute, though. I do like a good
They're
koala.
very soft.
Yeah.
Very soft.
They're very
Very
smelly.
cute.
No,
Smell like
thank you.
eucalyptus.
Oh.
Oh, I
Mm.
like eucalyptus a lot.
No, they don't smell like eucalyptus. They smell like pooped out.
No,
eucalyptus.
not a fan. Change my mind.
Can't say that on a podcast.
We're all about truth and accuracy
Yeah.
here.
I've already said crap many times. So it's okay. So, cool. Well, we'll leave it at that. I was gonna have a fact, but I'm nervous that's not gonna be that accurate.
Oh, no,
So I
please
started
give it
reading
to
They're
us. I
gonna
would
call
love to know.
We need
Can't
it.
We could
have a
test-
podcast without Catherine's facts.
We can. Because it's. Oh, okay. So I'm going to test you here.
Mhm.
What is? Sorry, I drew a blank there for a second. What is the number one deadliest animal in Australia?
Okay, deadliest. Like kills
Think-
the most people.
All animal species, correct? Not like
Right, right.
Mm,
okay.
I mean, so in Africa, it's actually the mosquito.
mm.
So
Yeah.
I'm guessing we're
I feel like
probably
this is a
going.
trick question.
It is.
I guess the
Yes.
top four. I don't know. I'm very.
Well, here,
mine
let us-
are on the border of questionable
We'll-
facts, and
We'll
I'm still
give
like,
you. We'll give you like what we think the
Ideas.
top four might be.
Yeah.
And then you can tell us if we're right or wrong. So I would say funnel web spider.
Okay.
Is it anywhere on there?
No.
Man,
Okay.
That sounds so
Eastern
scary,
brown
though.
snake.
pressure's on.
What in the world?
Ooh.
All right. Salties, saltwater crocodiles.
Number one.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
And then sharks. Sharks.
No.
Pterodactyls.
Pterodactyls are also there.
Are any of them
raptors.
snakes?
Yes.
Taipan. Tiger
Yes.
snake.
That's
Oh,
number two.
Taipan
Okay.
was
Yep.
number two. Okay.
Okay. What about the Irukandji box jellyfish?
Oh, good call. That's
I did see
deadly.
that on another thing, but no, it's not the top four though.
Okay,
But it is
what
one of the
about-
deadliest.
Blue ring octopus.
Bingo. Number three.
There it is.
Look at them.
That's why I
They're
married
giving
you.
like the accurate
I know.
names too.
I've never heard of
Stonefish.
any of these.
I know. I'm like,
Wait, are
more
any of them
reasons not
spiders?
to go.
Not the top four.
Okay.
I don't think people generally die from spider bites in
That's good
Australia.
call. What's the last one?
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
don't tell me the name. Just tell me the type of
Species.
animal.
Kind of animal.
I'm guessing it doesn't say. It gives like the
Oh.
accurate name, and I'm pretty sure it's a snake.
Where does it live? Okay.
It's not a tiger snake.
I got taipan, tiger snake.
Is that what it is? Not a snake, right?
And then three words, and that last word I believe would be the species.
Okay. Well, I didn't read that part. Shut up. But it's not a snake. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Please don't judge me, people who are listening.
No,
I didn't read the third word. I was
Judgment
too
free.
focused on that first word.
I haven't
didn't
heard of
wanna
any
mess
of these things, so you're fine.
I am shocked.
So wait, what is it? What is the animal?
What is the animal?
It might
or
give
the,
it
the
away.
What's the
species.
name of the animal
Oh,
species?
she said it's going to give it away.
Oh,
I don't know what to say.
I'll be
It's
honest.
What's the third word?
I'm out of guesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is a textile cone snail.
Ah, the cone
Stop it.
snail.
Mm.
That's why I was like,
It's a snail.
Snail.
Let's-
It said venomous on it, and I just thought
Mm.
snake. So.
Oh yeah.
Wait, that's one that lives
Are
in the
they
ocean,
huge?
yeah?
No, that's yes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like one of the swirly snails. that lives
Why do
in-
y'all have deadly snails?
They also have a stonefish, and it's just a fish that
Mhm.
looks like a stone, and you die. But like, it's insane.
so this is not the tourism for Australia podcast.
It's not. But also, like, when are you going to encounter these things? I went scuba diving in lots of places in
Come to
Australia, and I didn't see any
Australia.
of the venomous things.
You might
Any
That's
have
not
sharks?
true. I
been
did see
killed.
them. I did also see a shark. But I saw a lot of manta rays, and I saw lots of beautiful fish and sea turtles.
This is a little random, but did y'all see the octopus thing that, like, article thingy that went viral?
Can you tell me more?
The one that made
I
Friends.
have seen lots
So
of octopus
it's
things.
just like I research a lot. I mean, this was on Facebook, so take it with a grain of salt.
Mm,
But they said like octopus are really smart. Octopi.
incredibly. Oh, is this the through the shrimp?
Yes.
Mm.
Is that real? You think it's real?
All right. Here's the deal. So I'm a part of a zookeepers animal farm.
Zoologist. Yes.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's called the zoo creepers because everyone who
Nice.
looks after animals is very creepy. Let's be honest, and we love to creep on the animals. So this came up on there, and basically what they said was, yes, an octopus would do that. However, no one at any facility had an octopus that was able to escape from their like enclosure and make it back without dying, basically. So
I was
they know
also
how to
curious.
escape.
I didn't know.
But they couldn't make it back before they needed water and all the things.
Mhm.
So anyway, they did say yes, they've had octopus be that sassy and that rude and all of the things, but they hadn't had one actually escape and make it back.
Mm.
Sassy.
So apparently, the octopus keeper.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't gave him some shrimp into its tank or whatever. Lunchtime, and then the octopus keeper went back to his desk, and suddenly there was a shrimp that landed on his desk, and the octopus had escaped its enclosure and gone and threw one of the shrimp back because it was bad or
I
something.
didn't like the shrimp.
So I don't like this. Don't feed this to me again. I was like,
That is sassy.
that would be hilarious.
Yeah, but they said they're very, very sassy, and like they won't take food from certain people, and they like
That's so funny.
Yeah. So one of them was talking about how like their octopus started posing for pictures, like they were just trying to take pictures, but then all of a sudden they noticed it was like legitimately like posing in different ways. So yeah, yeah.
Crazy.
Sorry for the randomness, but I
No,
was
no,
like,
no.
oh
Okay.
my gosh, that was a funny story.
I think it's a great way to end it.
Yeah.
Octopus. Yeah, that was fun, guys. Now we're done. Why are we here, Nicole?
Well, we're here to talk about octopi.
Yeah.
That's such a weird word. We're here to talk about evangelism.
Yeah.
Something that is, I think, near and dear to any Christian's heart, whether it be in fear and anxiety or in excitement and boldness. So we're here to talk about what does evangelism look like? What is it really? Are we all called to it, or only certain people called to it? And how can we be more Christ-centered in how we share the gospel with people?
Yes, absolutely. So, like I said, we have Mr. Pete and Miss Maddie on. As we like to talk about with married couples, they are married. They share the last name, so that's how you know. And
Well,
then,
we did also share a last name before we got married.
Oh yeah,
You shouldn't tell people that.
Now they will
We
know.
weren't
Questions,
related, of course. Yeah.
brother, sister
It was a
thing.
very long way away.
Yeah. It's like,
We
we
can
looked
trust
into
that.
it.
We did.
Yeah, good. Like, oh yeah, I would too. I'd be like, just be safe, because it would be very devastating later on in life. You like learn your cousins or something
Yeah.
like that. So,
Be bad.
This is making my hands sweat.
oh, yeah.
Moving on.
But we always like to kind of get to know everybody. And so, how did you guys meet? Was it like the house? Was it a cold, dreary day in Australia?
Can I tell them my version?
Yes, I would love that.
The correct one?
Uh-oh. See.
Maddie went fishing for a man in
Oh,
Australia.
No.
You heard it here first.
I moved to Australia to, I thought, work with animals.
She was on a college campus, so she succeeded.
I did. But the Lord had other plans. So all the places that I applied for in Australia said no. Or had like a 6-month, year wait list to be a volunteer even, all these things. And I moved with a family that works with campus outreach. And they were like, well, while you're waiting, why don't you go on campus and do pseudo staff stuff for us? And so they put me on Pete's campus, and he was a chaplain for his college at the time. And so we had to work together to kind of organize boys and girls Bible studies and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had a very fancy title. I was I can't even remember what it is. Like
Like
chapel
so fancy.
coordinator or something.
yeah, something like that.
Chapel convener.
Yeah.
But so what we would do on campus, our colleges were set up a little similarly to fraternities and sororities, except little bit more organized. They were a lot more like adult boarding schools.
Mm.
I don't know if you have a reference for that, but as part of the student body, we would help to organize chapel on a weekly basis and Christian organized events on campus. A lot of that actually centered around evangelism for the population that lived there. And Maddie came on because we'd actually lost the young lady who was going to be the Christian coordinator that year, actually moved off campus, and so we lost one. And so we had this need, and she kind of filled it for us. So that's how we started meeting. And so she would meet with a lot of the younger ladies there and help disciple them and ask them questions and knit in their room and stuff like that. So
I did do a lot of that knitting in their room.
Shocking.
Also, Pete had on flip-flops, the tiniest shorts you can imagine, and a tank top when I met him.
Very
and I got her name wrong and her age.
And my age.
She is Maggie, and she's 19.
I know. I was just about to ask, like, was it love at first sight, or you kind of okay? No,
Oh, no. I thought I ruined it. I was like, good job, Pete.
Yeah. How you doing, Maggie?
Smooth.
Yeah. My roommate had said, "Oh, you should meet Peter Walker." I'm like, "That's stupid. We have the same last name." But anyway,
Belle, if you're listening,
Belle.
thank you.
Thank you, Belle. But when I met him, I was like, "Oh no," because he stood up and he had this deep voice and he started talking about Jesus, and I was like, "This is bad. No, this is bad. No, I need to go somewhere else. I gotta be on a different campus." But the Lord allowed us to just be good friends for a whole year. Sounds good.
Still going okay?
Still good friends.
10 years this weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, it was 21st of July.
Mm-hmm.
Dating or
I'm
married?
kind of surprised.
Married.
It's like I'm learning
Well-
this information for the first time.
We also have 2 wedding days.
We do.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
21st of July and the 19th of August.
Yeah, we were waiting for all the paperwork to go through so he could have a fiance visa, and it hadn't gone through, and it was time for our wedding. Like,
I don't think you should tell people this either.
So we had our religious ceremony,
Mm.
and then we finally had our meeting, and they were like, "Oh, a religious ceremony counts. Like, he just needs a spousal visa, not a fiance." And we were like,
Oh.
"Are you kidding me? It's fine." So, so we got to have a religious ceremony on July 21st, and actual legal went to the courthouse on August 19th.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I did forget that we got married on the courthouse steps. I keep
It is weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think it's the first time I ever heard that. It's crazy.
I'd be tempted to celebrate for the entire, 29 days or whatever
I
that
know,
is.
I know. I'm always like, what are we gonna do now? Can't we go to dinner again?
sorry, I was trying to think of like how you mash July and August together in a word, but it's not like
August.
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 Duelist.
Anyway,
Duelist. I don't know. Cool. That's awesome. So, even going back to those days, because clearly you were in outreach and all these different things like
Mhm.
that. Have you always just had that kind of passion for like evangelism and having outreach and stuff, or just kind of like something you, after many years, you just kind of came? Because you're a very sociable person. Like, I feel like you're very friendly. You like to talk to people. I don't think that scares you to talk to anyone new or anything like that. So, have you felt like you've always kind of had that passion? And did you kind of know it was evangelism, or just like, I just like talking about the gospel?
I would say there was a lot of different motivations in why I was involved with what I was doing. I think the way I became a Christian was for probably 2 reasons. Oh, the first reason was probably fear. I was like, don't want to go to hell.
Yeah.
And the second reason was, as I thought about it, it was the only thing that couldn't get taken away. Like all the other stuff that I was like pouring my life into at the time was like, it could get taken away, and it was true. And that was kind of how it started. And they're not the best reasons, but they were enough to get me in the door.
Mhm.
And so when you come in to Christianity through that doorway, there's a lot of things you do probably more from a legalistic standpoint than a passion standpoint. And so a lot of that was like, I know what God wants me to do, and so I'm going to start doing it until it becomes part of motivation. So there's my passion for evangelism has definitely grown as my walk with the Lord has grown, because I now see him more beautifully than I saw him before. And so whereas before had a different motivation, now there's a growing, deeper, sweeter, more beautiful motivation. So
Oh yeah. Have you, like, even just like looking back now, how, like, what is the just like the importance of evangelism that's just been in your life alone?
let me answer your question with a question. Who shared the gospel with you?
Jesus. I was in church. I mean, I've been in church since I was 5 years old, and so then when I heard the pastor talk about it, it hit me and stuck.
Who took you to church?
My family.
I mean, that's part of the initiation of evangelism. Like we evangelize our kids, things like that. But that process of just sharing the gospel with somebody that gives them the knowledge of God, that again opens that door for them, is so important. I mean, I think Paul says in Romans that how will they hear unless somebody tells them? And he says, how sweet are the feet of the messenger that brings good news. And that's incredible. Like, so that it's God uses believers to share about himself with other people. And so, yeah, it's incredibly important. But
yeah. So have you had a passion as well, kind of, for evangelism, or just kind of like, hey, he's got it?
No.
Yeah.
I would say mine has much more been forced. The Lord just continues to force me in situations like moving to Australia and all of a sudden having to be on a college campus. And I was planning to work with animals who you just have to take care of. You don't have to preach the gospel to. So, like I have seen how the Lord has continued to put me in these situations where I do have to be more bold, but he's been really sweet and growing my relationship with him to the point of desiring that these other people do know him, that it's so important to me that I get to have this, that I want them to also get to have it, that it's priceless, and I want to share with them. So I can definitely see how the Lord may force me in these situations, but he's been really sweet to grow those relationships and to open doors where it's been more accepted.
Yeah,
because these college kids were coming to chapel and they were coming to gospel. I mean, like, to campus outreach, and so it was like they knew what they were coming for, and so at least the door was cracked, so that made it a little easier to be like, so Jesus, right?
How do you feel like when it comes to evangelism, just in marriage alone? Like, how has that shaped your marriage? Is that something that, like, because I feel like every family has, like, this is what we do as a family. Like, is that something that y'all make like a thing? Like, we're trying to be active, like actively speaking the gospel, or try to actively evangelize, or anything like that? Like, is there anything that is kind of molded in y'all's marriage as a family that y'all try to do with that?
yeah, I mean, I think even when we purchased our house, we wanted a big house that we could love people in. We wanted space where people could come and they could feel comfortable, and you could have conversations, over a dinner table. The kids could be playing, and you could share what Jesus is doing in our lives, and the good news of that. And so that was, even from those decisions, we were like, yeah, this is what we want our household to be about, and we want our dinner table to look that way. So yeah, it's definitely been something that I felt like we've been intentional about organizing our life around.
Yeah, I think definitely, and then also just in the way we parent and the way we do life, I hope is a picture of the gospel, and I hope that we are glorifying God in those things, which then turns into, why are you guys willing to do this, or why are y'all, like, just questions that ask why we are opening our home, why we are having dinner, why we are doing things And I think hopefully those questions will lead to gospel communication.
Well, I would say I think y'all do a great job of that. Just saying. I
I
mean,
second that.
I know your
Yeah.
kids, and they're like, yes, y'all do that very successfully.
I am curious. I do feel like as for people that you could pick for like the evangelism podcast, that like maybe you'd already just done the people that were like really good at it, and like you're like, well, we haven't done the walkers, but we have this topic.
And
Like,
yeah, we'll throw them on there. No, we have probably almost since day one when we were going through like all the topics, like y'all have always been number one of evangelism, I think. And so no, y'all were always, because I mean, like I was telling you earlier, also, the church that we all attend the same exact church. So I said that backwards. I know I ruined it. Dadgummit. But Pete is an elder here. I did not
Elder
mention
candidate.
that. And, yeah, elder candidate. I did not mention that. See, I keep forgetting everything. But yeah, he's an elder candidate, and he also will be preaching at Gospel Community Church next Sunday. So you should all attend. Just saying. So, but I was, he's like, why did you do that? But like I was saying earlier, like I think y'all do a great job at that. I lost my train of thought. I was trying to grab it. What was I saying before?
That they've always been on the top of our list for evangelism.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And like well, I was saying earlier, like you're that kind of guy that you're friendly. You're gonna go up and talk to people, and like people have asked me like, hey, like how do you think Pete's gonna do with preaching and stuff? Because it's the thing we talk about. We would say the same thing with Phil, and I was like, I have no worries about Pete at all. I was like, because I've seen you in community group, and like how you share in community group, it's always so beautiful. And so I'm like, it's gonna kill it, guys. And so, yeah, no,
well, I'm blushing.
Yeah,
You can't see it. This is a podcast.
Yeah.
Very red.
Yeah. But no, yeah, you're not like the fifth choice. You are always the number one choice. So just saying. But I was kind of gonna flip it to you guys. I feel like with the last podcast we were talking about was enduring a ministry. We talked about that because y'all husbands, y'all are very much in a ministry, in the ministry and stuff. And so, and I feel like when I think about you and Brett, I think about you and George, like y'all have that evangelism, I feel like, in your hearts, especially George, especially. And I feel like Brett, I feel like is always in a very theological conversation with somebody, you know, he's very determined in what he's talking. And so, but like, how have y'all seen that in y'all's lives played out? And, you know, is that like an important thing for your families as well?
Yeah. First of all, evangelism, that word. I mean, as a young believer, you know, growing up hearing that word, you think of the people standing on the street corners, right? Like, you're going to go to hell if you don't read this book kind of thing. And it's like, I'm like, I will never do that. You know, like I'm never going to stand there and scream and shout. But like Maddie was saying, it's so much like part of your life. You know, it's like sharing life with other people and just living out the gospel. And so that's been more so the route, I guess, that Brett and I also take in evangelism is just life on life with people. And because it's like to think that we have to go up to strangers or go up to, you know, like I'm an introvert, like I'm not going to walk up to people and, you know, but just letting people into our life and into our home has been crucial in sharing the gospel and sharing, and it grows our marriage. Whenever we're really focused, of course we have dry spells and things like that, but when we're like focused on like, I'm going to pour into these people, it really sweetens mine and Brett's conversations of like, oh yeah, like this verse and this is how I've handled that situation, or that, you know, just being able to like really be on mission together really sweetens the marriage a lot. So
my husband has the biggest heart for evangelism. He could talk to anybody, will talk to anybody. Will, you know, we've obviously come out of a more charismatic church background. So for me, evangelist is like the guest speaker that comes to the church and prays for everybody and laying on of hands and like all the things and like carries the title evangelist so-and-so and whatever. But like the Lord has so sweetly rephrased and reframed what we believe and how we believe it. But still, George is very much like, pray for anybody on the street corner. We went to Chicago and did on the street corner ministry. And I don't know, sometimes I just look at him with eyes of awe, like, how can you do that? I am not that person. I am like, I'm never going to walk up to anybody that's not been like, you know, conversational or whatever, it's like, oh God, that is like so scary. But I will say, when you were talking about, Catherine, how you had come to church, like how did you hear the gospel and how your family brought you there? Like something I'd never really thought of is like how kind the Lord is that he has both passive and active evangelism, in that living life with people and just being a Christian and showing the word of the Lord in our actions, we're passively evangelizing. And how that still produces fruit, and it still plants seeds and water seeds and harvest seeds just through the gospel being the gospel. And that's pretty amazing. And then knowing when the Holy Spirit is prompting you to be active in evangelism and to speak up and to use the voice that the Lord has given us to speak truth and all of those things, but that they're both still valid and they both still matter. Like, it's super humbling to think like God can use us introverts as evangelists by being who we've been created to be in the kingdom. Really cool. I didn't used to believe that, because in our church you had to be like this perfect personality of a person. You had to be an extrovert and you had to be all of these qualifications of things to be like the perfect Christian, and that just ain't true.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You just got to get you in your safe space, and then it's like easy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you raised a really good point, because it's like the way you live. If you're not consistent with your words, nobody's going to believe what you say anyway. So that passive part's like super important. And if you don't say it, what you believe at any point, it becomes really confusing about why you're a quote unquote good person. And it's like you need both of those, and so important. Yeah.
So kind of a little bit going off what Heather says, like, what does evangelism look like? Is it that you got to go on the street corner and preach out to people and stuff like that? Or is it, yes, that and more? Like, what would you describe evangelism as?
Madeline, what do you think?
Well, I think Nicole hit it on the head a minute ago, that it doesn't look like just one thing. I think there can be a place to be on the corner of the street. I don't know how many hearts that's reaching, because I think so much of the gospel coming, like people coming to know the gospel, is through conversation and through life. And so that first conversation, we had it a lot growing up, like we would go to New York and do mission trips and things, but that first conversation is so important, but it's not the end all be all. Like, you need to have continuous conversation for someone to actually, like, I think for them to actually understand the gospel, so then the Lord can be working in their hearts. And obviously he can do that without us. But I think it's important for those conversations to be happening. So life, not just standing on the corner, but I'm sure the Lord uses that too. He uses us all.
I have a crazy story from today. This is the first time I've shared it, and like it just got lost in the day of work. But truck was running low on gas, pulled into the service station this morning, and I'm pumping gas, and it's one of those situations where you're like, just like, nobody look at me, like it'll be fine, just let me get my gas, and like, we'll peace out. Anyway, somebody approaches me and asks for money or help. And I said, look, I don't have any money that I can give you, but I'd love to fill your tank again. It's literally never worked for me. Like, everybody's been like, nah, I just want cash. Yeah. Anyway, this guy's like, dude, yeah, that'd be like fantastic. And so go and pay for his gas, and felt like the Lord was just prompting me and just said, hey, don't let your actions be the only thing that's seen here. Like, have a quick conversation, pray for this guy, do something. And so I was able to pray for him very, very quickly. Anyway, I get back over to my own truck. My battery has died. And so I walk back over to this guy that I've just met and paid for his gas tank. I'm like, I need your help now. So he swings his Mustang around, like we get the jumper cables up and running, and like he jumps me off. But it was a real sweetness. Like I was thinking about it, like how, I mean, it was kind of like reversed evangelized himself. but just how the Lord used that, and how I could have just said, mate, like, leave me alone, and then realized I needed his help. It's like it was a wild situation. So I think there is a situation where you've got to be ready on the street corner for sure to have those conversations. And I think there's a lot of intentionality around how you plan your life out to make those interactions more common, where you get to share the gospel, whether it's open up your kitchen table, invite people from work, looking and listening with gospel ears and eyes for those opportunities. So,
yeah.
And I think walking in the gospel allows you to be closer with the Lord so that you can hear the prompts too. Like, I think that's really hard for me to act on. I might hear them, but I'm just like, okay.
Yeah,
but
like
also,
the Holy Spirit for sure. Just leaning into those little nudges
Yeah.
is
it's hard. But I think when you're walking in gospel truths and you're doing life with people in the gospel, then it really helps.
Yeah, when we first moved here, I didn't know hardly anyone. I was moving away from a community where we talked about Jesus all day, every day. And it was just our way of life. Absolutely. And then moving to Fayetteville and not knowing anybody, it was like I was having a lot less gospel-centered conversations. And I felt like my whole walk with the Lord was super dry. And so it changes everything. Like when you're you get a new car and then suddenly everybody's got your car. But it's like, when you get up every morning and seek the Lord first, and then suddenly he's everywhere kind of thing. And
you might have forgotten this, but like we were fortunate enough to be the first community group that you guys came and visited.
yeah.
I was like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I
And then
remember
the
flying.
Lord,
teeny tiny
she
baby,
was like
3
2 weeks old.
Oh,
Yeah, she was
goodness.
so
I mean,
little.
she was
Had a
so
little
tiny.
thing, texture and everything.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
She was on a little glow palette.
Mhm.
Yeah, because the Lord, he just orchestrates everything, because we were living with Brett's parents at the time, which is
That's
like
right. Right
7
around the
minutes
corner.
from y'all's
Yeah.
house. Otherwise, I think usually you guys met here in Fayetteville, so we were
Mhm.
like 25 minutes. And like I had obviously just had a baby and was just on a ventilator like a month before that. So this whole thing,
That's
and
nuts.
so like I'm an introvert anyway.
Mm.
I don't want to live in Fayetteville. I'm still trying to figure out how to get quote
Out.
unquote home. Like,
Mhm.
no, like now you're wanting me to get plugged into a church. I do not want to go. But then he's like, they're like 7 minutes from here. I can't fight that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, fine, Lord.
I love that. I think it's a beautiful reminder also that evangelizing isn't only to the lost.
Mm.
It is to the lost, but we all still need the gospel preached at us in every moment. And we all can recognize that we have highs and lows on our seasons with the Lord, like where we're dry or you're really plugged in or whatever it might be, but we all need it. And living life with each other is that evangelism to the body as well. That's why I love Gospel Community Church we all attend. Not because it's the only church that does this, but the gospel is preached in our church every Sunday.
Mhm.
Every Sunday, the message is about Jesus. And it's amazing how every word of scripture refers to him. Like it's for somebody who didn't grow up in that, it's like, oh, it should have been so easy. But I'm just super grateful for that, and grateful for y'all to live life with you and to know that I have people running after me with the gospel just as I'm running after people with the gospel.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful image of the church and what the church should be. And we talk a lot about community. And for those of you listening who may not be plugged into a church, find a church.
Amen.
The church is not perfect because we are not perfect,
Yeah.
but the Lord is good. And he has called us to be in a body of believers. So get to church.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's such an incredible point. And I was reflecting on that on the way here. I'm like, is that evangelism? Like, but I'm so grateful for the gentlemen in my life that are constantly showing me more beauty in the gospel by describing it to me in different ways.
Mhm.
I mean, the Martins are absolutely incredible at it, and Wyatt's been so faithful in showing me that beauty over and over again. So I'm so grateful for the people and the men in this church that continually show up and have that influence in my life, because again, I'm just scared of hell and like trying not to go there, and finding more beauty in Jesus as I progress through my walk, and I need people speaking into that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it also shows God's sovereignty over it. And like we were talking about the people on the street corner. And when I think about that, I envision like the person who's like hardcore, like with the signs, like this is the end or whatever. And I remember George and I went to a concert in Atlanta. Like either we had visited or we were like just first moved here. And it was a concert for churches and stuff we would no longer affiliate with.
Okay.
Let's just say that. So I'm already going with kind of like is the gospel really going to be on display, or is this just going to be like a self show? Like what is happening? And there was a person on the corner who had their little microphone and speaker set up, and they were just preaching the gospel. They were not the person who was like you're an evil person, God hates homosexuality. Like, they were not that person. They were just reading the gospel. And people were all over like the spectrum of like, you're so wrong for being here. Hey, amen, brother. Keep up the Lord's work, whatever. But like, we were waiting in line and I'm just watching. And when we say like, we don't know if that's really effective or not, God knows. Because there were definitely people who were just mesmerized.
Wow.
And it just blessed my heart so much that the Lord let me see that in that moment, because like for me, that would be like instantly like, nope, that's wrong. But like, it's still effective because God knows exactly how people need to hear the word, and he's going to make a way for that to happen if they're his.
Yeah. I heard who are the magicians? I don't know. There's the famous
David Copperfield. That's the only one I can can
There's somebody else.
The
two.
David Blaine?
tigers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Whoever
Siegfried
they
and
were.
Roy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there it
something
is.
like that. Anyway, he said one time that he was walking down the street and somebody handed him a New Testament Bible and said, "Hey man, will you do myself and yourself a favor and read this? You know, like you need this and da 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 da." And he was like, I don't believe the same thing that man believes, but it got me thinking. He loves me enough to share that with me. And how much must you hate someone to sit there and let him go to hell?
Yeah.
Because that's what that man believes. That's what that man believes, that if you don't believe in this, you're going to hell. And so how much would you, if you believe that, how much do you hate somebody to just sit by and let them? And that, I think I heard that when I was like 14. And my memory is horrible, but that has stuck with me. And it's like, that's literally what you're saying. If you're just like, no, they'll figure it out, and keep moving. Convicting myself right now of like, how much am I sharing the gospel? And I'm always afraid of like sitting down and sharing the gospel with people, because I'm like, I'm going to screw it up and they're going to be like, oh, I don't know that Jesus. And I'm like, I'm going to fumble over everything. It's going to be so bad. But when Brett had just become a believer, and I think we were kind of starting with campus outreach, he was working part-time at Vitamin World, I think. Shocking. And they had gotten there was a new guy that came in, and they had to drive like an hour to go to training. And so Brett drives this guy, Mark. He's a few years younger than him. And Brett's like, sweet, I've got this guy in the truck with me for an hour. He's going to hear about Jesus today, And so when Brett got home that night, I was like, well, how was the drive with the new guy? And he was like, man, he literally asked me about church and all this stuff. And I have no idea what I said. It was horrible. I probably scared that guy off. That guy texted him that night and was like, I want to know more. Do you do a Bible study? And that he's in our Dahlonega crowd that we talked about last week on the podcast. And now him and his wife and now 3 children have just moved to Lebanon to be missionaries. Wow. And it's just, Brett was convinced. He was like, I did not explain it well. And he probably thinks I'm a moron, but the Holy Spirit moved, and that's all it takes. Like, it's not really us, it's the Spirit. So
exactly,
just be confident in him.
Yes. Like the word talks about not being afraid of what to say, because in those moments, God will give us what to say. I'm also that person. I go home after we record the podcast and I'm like, what do we talk about? Right. No idea. But that's amazing.
Octopuses.
Yeah. Yes. So do y'all feel like me growing up, I feel like that was like epic we all kind of shared different things where it was mission trips or anything like that. I feel like that was always preached. Like I grew up in a Baptist church, and I feel like that was always the number one thing. We got to go out. We got to do this. We got to do that. It's like that was almost like a part of your Christian walk that you had to do. And so, when you look back, do you feel like it's the same as it was now? Like when you think about Christians nowadays, do you think they make it a top priority? Like, hey, we got to go out and evangelize, or is it just no? We'll go to church on Sundays. We might talk about Jesus at work, maybe, but we're just going to we go to church. That's good enough. Like, do you feel like does it seem the same, or does it feel completely different nowadays to y'all?
Well, to me, it's completely different, because I grew up in the era of youth group when it was Acquire the Fire. We're going to sign you up for global expeditions while you're here without your parents' approval, like all of the things. And, you're going to Africa, you're going to India, you're going to here and this and that. So I feel like the vocalization of that kind of stuff is much less in my life, but I think that the action of evangelism is more, even though it's not talked about necessarily as we're going on a mission trip to this country, that the action of speaking the gospel and living the gospel is stronger in my circle of influence now than it was back when it was like, where are we going next? We're going to Tanzania? We're going to Kenya? Where are we going? And I have not been anywhere. I would have loved to have gone, but it just financially never came to be. So
Yeah, it seems like it's less event focused.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, I love these partnerships that our church has with, I'm going to butcher this, Barranquilla, Colombia.
Yeah, you did great.
Like, I'm looking forward to going.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. To be able to go and share the gospel, and especially when you hear that the majority of the gospel that's preached down there is health and wealth, and you're like, that's not good news. That's bad news. Like, there is real good news, and we would love to share that. Like that's been the first like mission trip that I've been like, I can get behind that. Like, that sounds amazing. But it was not something that I grew up with, so I'm kind of the opposite.
It is what I grew up with. I mean, lots of mission trips, and I do think, I think it gave me an appreciation for, like, my, Jesus covered life. Like, I grew up in a Baptist church too, and my parents, we tithed. We did these things because, like, that's how we love God. And so I feel like they did a great job with that. And going to New York in the summers, like, it gave me a great appreciation for, like, how my parents were raising us and that we were involved in church. But I also think, like, day-to-day life, kind of like what you guys were saying, like, day-to-day life is much more saturated in the gospel and evangelism in my life now than, I don't know that I would say than then, but I feel like there's just a vulnerability that our generation is willing to have with each other that my mom's generation had a hard time doing with her friends, and, like, friends a lot of times were work friends, and that my dad knew their husbands through work, and so it was really hard to be super vulnerable with them. And I do think that getting to do life together and evangelize to each other in a vulnerable way is, I see it a lot more these days than I feel like I saw growing up.
I don't know if you know this, but we've invited 3 people to live in our house that are not Christians. They're 7, 5, and 3.
I knew it.
And
It took me a second. I'm like,
I was like,
I'm going to tell you right now on the podcast.
yeah, but Maddie is evangelizing to them every single day, and it's absolutely incredible. Like, they're 7, 5, and 3. They've been in our house 7 years, and they still haven't, like,
full on heathens.
but their hearts are still not engaged with the gospel, and again, that time period's so important of consistently sharing and just pouring into their lives, and that's, I think that nearly needs to be part of the mindset of anybody who's like, man, I'm going to share the good news. We're going to do it a lot,
We're gonna do it a lot,
and we're going to do it in lots of little ways. We're going to do it in front of them. We're going to do it, like, obviously. We're going to do it less obviously.
Which I feel like my parents did do a good job with
absolutely.
that. Like, they really preached the gospel to us. I think the friendships is, like,
Yeah.
really the biggest difference I see. But, man, parenting and the gospel.
Well, it was those rhythms that your
So
mum and your
tiring.
dad had
Yeah.
that were training you to know what being an adult Christian would look like.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so-
It's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway. I didn't even think about that because it's like, it's very true. It's like I said, grew up in the Baptist church. It was very much, everything was outward. You just did it. You're a Christian, so you're required to do these kind of things. But then we're looking back, and now it's like, oh yeah, I think we do a different job of friendships and value in those things, and so in those kind of evangelist like ways, and so, which is very beautiful. It's crazy how the Lord can use all those different things, and so
Yeah, there's a lot of, as far as how evangelism looks, I mean, I think the reason it's so scary is because it feels like you have to do the formula.
Mhm.
Like you have to do the stuff.
Yeah.
And then like eventually, and I'm guilty of this, like part of, like I'm a performance person, like
Mhm.
much less of a grace person. So I think that my performance is going to have outcomes. And when it doesn't have outcomes, that's really scary because I didn't perform well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what you were saying. It's like your performance does not matter, like your faithfulness does.
Mm.
And so that was a big shift for me. It was like, okay, like somebody's salvation, whether they're going to believe in Jesus, is completely up to the Lord. Your faithfulness in just leaning into those conversations is really important. And as I've reflected on people that have done that like incredibly well, that I look back on with like fondness, they just asked a bunch of questions and they got to know me, and they spent probably 90 to 95% of the time just letting me talk. And then they had all their gospel ears and eyes switched on, and they were just listening for like, okay, what's he not believing about the gospel? And then maybe right at the end, they'd spend 5 minutes of an hour just telling me about the gospel, where they listened for 55.
Yeah.
And that was really, really powerful. Like they were the people that I look back, oh, man, they were sweet, beautiful people that would take the time instead of just coming in, assuming that they knew what the problem was, fix the problem and leave and go on. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing I always try to reside with myself, is sometimes you might not see that immediate, like, hey, I'm coming to Christ, like it clicks, or, you could be just planting a seed, you could be the start of something. And so it's like you're saying, like, you want to see that immediate gratification, like, I did it, yay, Lord. But it's like, it might not be that way. God could like, hey, I'm going to use you for this time, but it's going to, it'll stay with them, but then it's going to come over here. And so we might not see all the things on this side of eternity, but it is sweet that the Lord uses all of us in many facets, in many ways, for sure. So,
amen.
As we kind of come to a close, what's an encouragement y'all would kind of leave with someone who's saying, like, I know I'm a Christian, this is what I'm supposed to do, but they believe those things of, I got to be on the street corner. I don't want to do that. That seems super scary. I got to be vulnerable with people around me. That sounds terrible. And it's like, or a person that's like, hey, I've been doing it. I've been out there. I've been telling all these people these things, and nothing's happening. And I feel very like defeated. Like, how would you encourage those people?
Yeah, I think I think if there's a timidity, I'd encourage people to fall in love with Jesus, because like it is not difficult for me to tell other people how great Maddie is, because I love her. Like she's fantastic, and she takes care of me, takes care of her kids. She tells them about the gospel. Like she puts up with me, like all sorts of stuff. Like those are great things. I love telling people about Maddie. If I loved Jesus that much, it would be really easy just to tell people about how great Jesus is and what he did. And so when you fall in love with Jesus in that way, it's really simple to share how wonderful he is, because it's great news. That's the whole point of the gospel. If you feel like you're in it and you're not seeing any results, I think there are ripples of impact that we will never see in our lifetime that will have impact in eternity. And whether it was just praying for that guy in the 2 seconds we had this morning after pumping him some gas, like whether that plants in fertile soil that somebody else comes and waters and he ends up going to church, and somebody else like shares the gospel and he professes faith, like those are, I think Paul talks about it. It's like we planted the seed, somebody comes behind and waters. Like my encouragement would be a part of that process, lean into it, and know how the Lord's gifted you, and look forward to the day when you see the city of Christ, the celestial city, as they call it in Pilgrim's Progress, but you see all the people that you impacted. Like you might not see it in this lifetime, but you're going to get to meet them, and being able to have that future mindset, and looking forward to seeing all the people that you get to be in fellowship with because you were faithful. I think it's going to be incredible.
I never thought of it that way. That like hit me with a ton of bricks. I was like, oh, it makes you, it encourages you to do that, because it's like even if you don't see it, you are going to see it. And so if God has called that person, you will get to see that person. It's like, hey, I remember you at the gas station. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know how beautiful and good the Lord is. I think it's incredible.
Yeah.
And those are the real treasures in heaven. Like
Yes.
we think about the things that we hold on to as treasures on earth. Like it's the relationships that are most important, and those are going to be the things that are stored up in heaven. All those relationships. I mean,
Yes. Oh yeah. Cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, well, both of you, for your hearts for evangelism, and thank you that you just love talking about Jesus, and that you definitely have a heart for them. And I think anyone in our church can say they don't doubt the love that y'all have for Christ. You know, that's in your hearts. And so, because I feel like every service, even outside of church, y'all exude that daily. And so, it's definitely, I think, inspires so many people. So thank you guys for doing that. So,
you're very kind.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
yeah, no problem. If we always say, we hope that this is a tool. This can help you. It's not the main tool. But if you have any questions or want to talk more about evangelism, or have prayer requests or need encouragement, we have a email address. Let's say we have a podcast.
That too.
Also that.
Be still and grow podcast at gmail.com.
Correct. And so please email us. We'd love to help you guys out in any way. So, but with that, we love you guys. Mr. Pete, can you pray us out?
We'd love to. Lord, I thank you for the hearts of your people that are absolutely captivated by who you are. I pray that you would captivate my heart more deeply, that you would grow and develop a love for your son that just ripples out of me, that other people would come across it, whether it was by deed and action as well as word, that they would not be confused by the behaviors of Christians when they go, man, why are those people so good? I pray that they would know why, and that would be shared. But as people listen to this, I pray that you would just give them a confidence and a love for your son that would just send them out, that it would be easy, that it would be fruitful, but that they would be faithful most of all. Pray all that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for listening. Please email us at bestillandgrowpodcast@gmail.com with your questions, comments, ideas, and prayer requests.
For more content from Gospel Community Church, check out the Training Day podcast, hosted by George Jones
This is Catherine.
Heather?
and Nicole.
Join us next time. We'll save you a seat. Till then, be still and grow.